Hello, ladies. I'm going to do a teaching for women on the Sabbath. Hebrews 3 and 4 is a place in Scripture where people get confused about whether or not it's telling them that the Sabbath is done away with or not. So we're going to read through it and talk about it and analyze it a little bit and kind of jump around, and you'll be able to see in the Scriptures clearly what it's explaining. I'm going to start from Hebrews 3 verse 7. I'm going to read straight through to Hebrews 4. I might just read all of Hebrews 4. All right. Wherefore, as the Holy Ghost says, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my works 40 years. Wherefore I was grieved with that generation, and said, they do always err in their heart, and they have not known my ways. So I swear in my wrath they shall not enter into my rest. Okay, this is a quote from Psalm 95. It's most of Psalm 95 that Paul used in his letter to the Hebrews, saying, remember this. Remember to not harden your hearts the way that the Israelites did in the wilderness when they came out of Egypt. Psalm 95, verse 6, it says, O come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before Jehovah our Maker. For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture and the sheep of his hand. Today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your heart, as in the provocation and as in the day of temptation in the wilderness, when your fathers tempted me, proved me, and saw my work. 40 years long was I grieved with this generation, and said, it is a people that do err in their heart, and they have not known my ways, unto whom I swear in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. Okay. His rest, when he's talking about his rest, he's saying the millennial rest. You will not enter into the millennial rest. So all of the people, right? It said that I think it was all the men who were over 20, except for Caleb and Joshua, did not get to enter into the promised land. They were killed in the wilderness. They died. God said, you are not coming into the promised land. And then here in Hebrews, Paul is saying the same thing. He's saying, if you are not going to enter into the rest, you're not going to end up in the millennial reign. Okay, so he's reminding of the people of this. Like, God doesn't change. He's saying, remember what happened to those who did not obey in the wilderness. Remember that they didn't get into the promised land. And today, it's the same thing. If you don't enter into the rest, if you're not obedient today, you're not going into the millennial reign. Verse 12, take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God. All right. Real quick, let's look in verse 12. The word unbelief is G570. It says faithlessness, that is disbelief or unfaithfulness, disobedience. Unbelief means disobedience, and then the opposite, belief, means obedience. So if you believe, you are obedient. If you don't believe, then you are disobedient, right? And this connects to James, where he says, show me, faith without works is dead. Show me your faith without works, and I'll show you my faith by my works, right? We show God our faith by our works. How obedient you are shows the level of faith that you have, belief that you have in God. So take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of disobedience in departing from the living God. But exhort one another daily, while it is called today, lest any of you be hardened through the deceitfulness of sin. Right? So sin is going to harden your heart. When you stop sinning, you ask God for a humble heart, He softens your heart, you sin less. You're going to be more obedient because your faith is increasing and you believe. Verse 14. For we are made partakers of Messiah, if we hold the beginning of our confidence steadfast unto the end. While it is said, today, if you will hear His voice, harden not your hearts, as in the provocation. So here again, He's sending you back to Psalm 95. Do not forget that they were killed in the wilderness and they did not get to go into the promised land. He's telling you this for a reason. It's because God doesn't change. The same thing that happened then to the people who were disobedient are going to happen today to the people who are disobedient. For some, when they had heard, did provoke. Howbeit, not all that came out of Egypt by Moses. But with whom was he grieved 40 years? Was it not with them that had sinned, whose carcasses fell in the wilderness? And to whom sware he that they should not enter into his rest, but to them that believed not, obeyed not. So, those that should not enter into his rest were them that obeyed not. Don't obey, don't go to rest. So we see that they could not enter in because of unbelief, because of disobedience. Let us therefore fear, lest the promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. So, a promise being left of us entering to his rest. So the promise to us is that we're going to enter into his rest. We're going to enter into that millennial reign, that millennial Sabbath. We're going to enter into that if you remain in fear. Let us therefore fear. The fear of God is defined in Deuteronomy 6. It means to keep the 10 commandments. The Sabbath is the 4th commandment. So let us therefore continue in this fear of God. Let us continue in the 10 commandments, lest the promise being left us of entering into his rest, any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. Okay. Let's go into the definition of the word faith. Where am I? Not being mixed with faith. G4102. Persuasion, credence, moral conviction, reliance upon the Messiah for salvation, truth itself, assurance, belief, believe, faith, fidelity. Belief. The word belief and faith come from the same root word, which means to obey. They both come from G3982. To convince, to pacify, to make a friend, to obey, to persuade, to trust, and to yield. Okay, so if you have faith, and you believe, you are obedient. It's the same thing. And you can measure your faith. You can measure how much faith you have and how strongly you believe by how obedient you are to God's conviction, to his grace. So let's read verse 2 again. For unto us was the gospel preached, as well as unto them in Egypt. They got the gospel preached to them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. So the gospel profits you nothing if you have no faith. If you're not obedient to the gospel, it profits you nothing. You can hear it all day long. It's not going to do anything for you if you don't obey it. For we which have believed do enter into rest, as he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise, and God did rest the seventh day from all his works. Okay, so that's going all the way back to Genesis. God rested on the seventh day. He hallowed that day. He set it apart. It is the Sabbath day of rest, and he made it for us, right? Everybody says the Sabbath was made for man. It was made for us so that we could have a day to rest, to recuperate, so that we could reconnect with God after working 6 days, right? Work 6 days, rest 1. So you work for 6 days, you bust your butt. On the 7th day, you stop your work and you just rest and you reconnect with God, and he gives you the meat in due season. You fellowship with others who are in covenant. It's a beautiful thing. And it's those who have faith that rest is going to be refreshing, that actually will enter into it. So you're going to enter into this weekly rest, and we have faith that entering into that weekly rest is going to bring us into the millennial rest. All right, let's back up into verse 3 a little bit. He says, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest, although the works were finished from the foundation of the world. This makes me think of Ezekiel 20. I'm not sure if that's the exact place where... Shh, Abby Rose. No, Abby, no. Shh, stop. I'm not actually sure if this is exactly where Paul was referencing, but I'm going to read part of Ezekiel. Abby Rose, please. No, thank you. I'm going to read part of Ezekiel 20, and hopefully you hear this. Verse 7. Then said I unto them, cast ye away every man the abomination of his eyes, and defile not yourselves with the idols of Egypt. I am Jehovah your God. But they rebelled against me, and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, neither did they forsake the idols of Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them, to accomplish my anger against them, in the midst of the land of Egypt. Okay. Fury and wrath, it's the same word. Fury means wrath, wrath means fury. So in Ezekiel 20, it's obviously a Hebrew word. Ezekiel 20, it's a Hebrew word. In Hebrews 4, it's a Greek word, but the root means the same thing. The definition is the same thing. So he's going to pour out his fury upon them to accomplish his anger in the midst of the land of Egypt. But I wrought for my name's sake, that it should not be polluted before the heathen among whom they were, in whose sight I made myself known unto them, in bringing them forth out of the land of Egypt. Wherefore I caused them to go forth out of the land of Egypt, and brought them into the wilderness. I gave them my statutes, and showed them my judgments, which, if a man do, he shall even live in them. Okay, so he brings them out of Egypt to Mount Horeb, and he gives them the 10 Commandments, his statutes and judgments. And if you do them, you will live in them. Verse 12. Moreover, I gave them my Sabbaths to be a sign, which means mark, between me and them, that they might know that I am Jehovah that sanctifies them. So he gave us the Sabbath as the mark. That's the mark of God, is the Sabbath. The seventh-day Sabbath, the fourth commandment, is the mark of God. But the house of Israel rebelled against me in the wilderness. They walked not in my statutes, and they despised my judgments, which if a man do, he shall even live in them. And my Sabbaths they greatly polluted. Then I said I would pour out my fury upon them in the wilderness to consume them. Okay, so this was, Moses is up on Mount Sinai with God for 40 days and 40 nights. And the Israelites built a golden calf. And God said, I'm done with them. I'm going to destroy them. I'm going to start fresh with you, Moses. And Moses pleaded for them. He said, please, for your name's sake, don't destroy them. What are the Egyptians going to think? You just brought them out. Did you bring them out here just to destroy them? That's what the Egyptians are going to say. Please don't destroy them. Please. He begged for them. So verse 14, it says, but I wrought for my name's sake that it should not be polluted before the heathen, in whose sight I brought them out. Okay, so God said, you're right. I don't want the heathen to think that, God said, I don't want my name to be polluted among the heathen, for them to think that I just brought them out of Egypt to destroy the people. Yet also I lifted up my hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land which I had given them, flowing with milk and honey, which is the glory of all lands. Okay, so this is the rest. The people who did not obey in the wilderness, the people who, like all of the adults that were over 20, except for Joshua and Caleb, they died in the wilderness. And this was the punishment. This was part of the punishment. He lifted up his hand unto them in the wilderness, that I would not bring them into the land. They don't get to go into the promised land. They didn't get to go into that rest. Because they despised my judgments and walked not in my statutes, but polluted my Sabbaths, for their heart went after their idols. Okay, so Paul in Hebrews points you back to Psalm 95 and to Ezekiel 20 to remind you this is what happened to them, and it's going to be the same thing that happens to us. If you don't obey, if you don't keep those 10 commandments, his statutes and his judgments, whereby you will live in them, then you're not going to enter into the rest. Okay, so verse 4, back in Hebrews 4, verse 4. For he spake in a certain place of the seventh day on this wise, and God did rest on the seventh day from all his works. Okay, so he's reminding us. Remember, God rested on the seventh day, and so do we. And in this place again, if they shall enter into my rest, seeing therefore it remaineth that some must enter therein, and they to whom it was first preached entered not because of unbelief, because of disobedience. Again, he limiteth a certain day. Limit there means mark or bound. Okay, so again, he marks a certain day, saying in David, today, after so long a time, as it is said, today, if you will hear his voice, harden not your hearts. Okay, so David, the Psalms, that's again to Psalm 95. For if Yeshua had given them rest, then would he not afterwise have spoken of another day? So if he had given you another day, right? If the Messiah, Yeshua, had given us another day of rest, or every day is our rest, or he is our rest, wouldn't he have said so? But he didn't say so. Paul's telling you right here, he didn't change it. He didn't mark out another day. God marked out the day in the beginning, and it remains. For if Yeshua had given them rest, then would he not after have spoken of another day? There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God. Now, if you look up in verse 9 there, that word rest, in the Greek, it is, how do you say it? Because I don't speak Greek. So I'm going to go, where am I? Verse 9. Rest. G4520. Sabbatismos. Sabbatismos. Which means a sabbatism, rest. From 45:21, the Sabbath. The Sabbath. From Hebrew origin 7676, the Sabbath. So, verse 9, there remaineth therefore a Sabbath to the people of God. Again, you please read with a concordance, because it's going to help you understand what is being said here. There remaineth therefore a Sabbath unto the people of God. For he that is entered into his rest, he also has ceased from his own works, as God did from his. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest. Work to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. So back to the people in the wilderness, don't fall to the unbelief. Don't fall into disobedience. I can actually stop there. Okay, so what happens to the people now who do not enter into the rest, and who will not enter into the millennial rest? It says that he's going to pour out his wrath. Right? If we go back to Psalm 95, unto whom I swear in my wrath that they should not enter into my rest. What is his wrath? What does that mean? The word wrath there in Psalm 95:11, to whom I swear in my wrath, it's H639, which means properly the nose or nostril, hence the face. The rapid breathing in passion, ire, anger, long-suffering, wrath. Okay? When you think about the nose, the nostril, the rapid breathing of fire, the anger, this should make you think of Isaiah 65 and 66. Oops. Sorry. Okay. Hey. Dog never barks. What? Okay. So let's go to Isaiah 65. Let's go to 66. Or actually, no, here. Isaiah 65. From the beginning. I am sought of them that asked not for me. I am found of them that sought me not. I said, behold me, unto a nation that was not called by my name. I have spread out my hands all the day unto a rebellious people, which walketh not in a way that walketh in a way that was not good after their own thoughts. Okay, so you're disobedient. You're not thinking about God's commands and God's judgments. You're thinking about your own ways. A people that provoketh me to anger continually to my face, that sacrifice in gardens and burn incense upon altars of brick. Okay, sacrificing in gardens goes back. Hey, Abby Rose, no. Hey, stop that. No. Leave it. Sorry. Hey, naughty girl. No. Come here. So sacrificing in gardens takes you back to First Kings. Okay, they were sacrificing in groves of gardens of green trees. Okay, this was the Asherah pole. So they would worship a tree. In Deuteronomy, God tells us, do not have any trees anywhere near my altar. And then in Romans 11, when Paul is talking about grafting into the commonwealth of Israel, he says, don't you dare do what the Israelites did to get kicked out of the land in the first place, right? Don't boast against the natural branches and say, I can do these abominations. I'm delivered to do all these abominations. Don't do that. And that is the Christmas tree. The Asherah pole is the modern day Christmas tree. This is worshiping behind a tree. Sacrifice in gardens of green trees, and burn incense upon altars of brick, which remain among the graves, and lodge in the mountains, which eat swine's flesh, and broth of abominable things is in their vessels, which say, stand by thyself, come not near to me, for I am holier than thou. These are a smoke in my nose, a fire that burneth all the day. Behold, it is written before me, I will not keep silence, but will recompense, even recompense into their bosom. Okay, so these are smoke in my nose, the nostril. Okay, this anger, this smoke in his nose, it's from people being disobedient. And a big part of that is your idols. Okay, so ouch, stop that. In chapter 66, verse 16, it says, for by fire and by his sword will Jehovah plead with all flesh, and the slain of Jehovah shall be many. They that say, these are the ones who are going to be slain. They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree, okay, in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, says Jehovah. Okay? Just the next verse here, it says, for I know their works and their thoughts. It shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. Okay, so that's talking about the second Exodus. I'm not going to really get into that today. But just know that that's there. And that's he's going to gather his people The ones who are not eating pork and other abominable things behind a Christmas tree, sacrificing their children through the fire to Moloch. Okay, so if we back up to chapter 65, these are smoke in my nose, a fire that burns all the day. That's verse 5. This connects to Psalm 74. All right. Psalm 74 says, "O Jehovah, why have you cast us off forever? Why does your anger smoke against the sheep of thy pasture?" That anger, the nose, is the same word that's used in Isaiah 65, verse 5 there. So let's keep reading. It says, "Remember your congregation, which you have purchased of old, the rod of your inheritance, which you have redeemed, this Mount Zion, wherein you have dwelt. Lift up your feet unto the perpetual desolations, even all that the enemy has done wickedly in the sanctuary. Your enemies roar in the midst of your congregations," right? These are the wolves in sheep clothing. They're roaring in the midst of his congregation. All those churches who claim to follow the God of the Bible, they stand up there on their pulpits and they read a verse or two from this Bible every Sunday on Sun God Worship Day. They say they're his people, but they do nothing that this Bible tells them to do. In fact, they do everything that it says not to do. So your enemies, God's enemies, roar in the midst of your congregations. They set up ensigns for signs. They set up, so that's Mark. H226 means Mark. They set up their signs for signs, right? So they're telling you, it's like their own self-righteousness. Paul tells us that they forsake I think it's in Romans 1, they forsake the righteousness of God for their own self-righteousness. So they are putting their mark on people and getting rid of God's mark, the Sabbath. "A man was famous according as he had lifted up axes upon the thick trees." Okay, that goes back to Jeremiah 10, verses 1 to 5. The man who goes into the forest and cuts down a tree with the axe. "But now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. They have cast fire into the sanctuary. They have defiled by casting down the dwelling place of thy name to the ground. They said in their hearts, let us destroy them together. They have burned up all the synagogues of God in the land. We see not our signs. There is no more any prophet, neither is there among us any that knoweth how long. O God, how long shall the adversary reproach? How long shall the adversary reproacheth? Shall the enemy blaspheme thy name forever? Why withdrawest thou hand, even thy right hand? Pluck it out of thy bosom. For God is my King of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. Thou did divide the sea by thy strength. Thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. Okay, so I'm not going to read the whole rest of it, but I want to look at verse 10. Shall the enemy blaspheme your name forever? In Isaiah 52, it says, verse 4, for thus says Jehovah, my people went down aforetime into Egypt to sojourn there, and the Assyrian oppressed them without cause. Now therefore, what have I here? says Jehovah, that my people is taken away for naught? That they rule over them to make them howl, says Jehovah? And my name continually every day is blasphemed. Therefore my people shall know my name. Therefore they shall know in that day that I am he that does speak. Behold, it is I. Okay? This connects to Proverbs 30. All right, so in Proverbs 74, will your name be blasphemed forever? God, are you going to let your name be blasphemed forever? In Isaiah 52, he says that his name every day is blasphemed, but his people know his name. All right, so let's jump to Proverbs 30. Verse 4. Who has ascended up into heaven, or descended? Who has gathered the wind in his fist? Who has bound the waters in a garment? Who has established all the ends of the earth? What is his name? And what is his son's name, if you can tell? There's two different names. Jehovah is the Father, who established all the ends of the earth. And his son's name is Yeshua. Jehovah saves. Yah saves. Yeshua. That's what. So in the Hebrew transcripts, every time it says salvation, the Hebrew word there is Yeshua. His name literally means salvation. In English, it would be Joshua. All right. So while we're in Proverbs 30, when we were in Ezekiel 20, the word fury was H639. That word is also in Proverbs 33. Sorry, Proverbs 30, verse 33. It says, surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood, so the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife. Okay, so this word H639 means the nose, nostril. Okay, so this is how we got here, the nose. In Ezekiel 20, it was this wrath, this smoke in God's nose, right? That brought us to Isaiah 65. This anger also is in Proverbs 30, where it's talking about his name. His name is being blasphemed. Okay, so if you follow this trail of the people who aren't keeping Sabbath are dealing with this wrath, these people are also blaspheming the name of God. Okay, so you can see that when you read the Bible in Isaiah 28:12, it tells us, or 28:10, it tells us that we have to read here a little, there a little, precept upon precept, line upon line. Okay, that's how we go. So we're going to follow the theme from one verse to another and paint the picture, so we can understand the picture that God's trying to paint for us. Okay, it's like a tapestry. And when you weave all of these pieces together, it shows the picture. It makes sense. Okay? So in Hebrews 3 and 4, the people who are not keeping the Sabbath today are the same as the people who were disobedient in the wilderness. They didn't enter into God's rest. They didn't enter into the promised land. And the people today who are disobedient and not keeping the Sabbath are not going to enter into the millennial rest, the millennial Sabbath. And then when you look at what it says, right, Paul tells you that the people in the wilderness, it says, so I swear in my wrath that they shall not enter into my rest. He swears in his wrath, okay? So then you have to ask, what is the wrath of God? The wrath of God, so you're going to follow that word wrath, because we want to know, like, what's going to happen to those people, right? We're trying to warn you of what's going to happen if you choose not to enter into this Sabbath rest, this weekly rest, okay? So the wrath of God is the smoke in his nose. This wrath of God is in Isaiah 65. The people who are standing behind one Christmas tree eating swine's flesh, that in Isaiah 66, he says they're going to be consumed with fire. Okay? In Proverbs, right, following this theme, in Proverbs and in Psalm 74, he tells us that his name is being blasphemed. So these same people who are eating swine's flesh and standing behind one tree, worshiping trees, are also blaspheming the name of God. And these people are going to be consumed with fire. Okay? This is the tribulation. If you don't obey God, if you don't obey the 10 Commandments, the wrath that comes is this consuming fire. Right? We know that the end times, like, he's not going to flood the earth with water again, but he's going to burn it down. I think that's common knowledge amongst the people in the church. They know that the tribulation is going to be like Sodom and Gomorrah, raining fire down. That sounds very unpleasant, to say the least. Like, I don't want that. I don't want you to go through that. So, really, please search this stuff out. And, read these for yourself. Okay, there was one other thing that I thought I saw that was really cool that I want to look at here, and it has to do with what we're seeing here in Proverbs 30:33. If I can find the word. It's the one back in Ezekiel. Yes, okay. So in Ezekiel 20, verse 8, it says, they rebelled against me and would not hearken unto me. They did not every man cast away the abominations of their eyes, right, their idols. Neither did they forsake their idols of Egypt. Then I said, I will pour out my fury upon them to accomplish my anger against them in the midst of the land of Egypt. Okay, so this word fury here is 25:34. 25:34 means heat, figuratively anger, poison, hot displeasure, furious, heat, indignation, poison, rage, wrath. It says, see 25:29. That means curdled milk or cheese, butter. Okay? So when we're in Proverbs 30, verse 33, surely the churning of milk bringeth forth butter, and the wringing of the nose bringeth forth blood, right? So if you bump your nose, right, you bash your nose somehow, your nose is going to bleed. If you churn milk, you're going to make butter. So the forcing of wrath bringeth forth strife. If you force God to pour out his wrath on you, it's going to bring forth this strife, okay? And the fury, this word fury from Ezekiel 20, means curdled milk or cheese. It is from the root 2346. 2346 is, it means to join, a wall of protection. Walled. Okay, so this wall of protection, so this is painting a picture, right? The Hebrew language is very deep language. It's painting this picture, and it's the same thing here in Proverbs 30, verse 33. When the sixth seal opens, it's when Satan is cast out of heaven into earth. He's going to be cast into Mystery Babylon, which is the United States of America. Satan is going to be cast down into the United States. The sixth seal is when the heaven unrolls like a scroll, right? So the sky rolls back is how it's described, I think, in Revelation. Excuse me. This wall of protection, right? The heavens, the firmament, it's a protective bubble over earth that's going to get rolled back, okay? The sixth seal, this wall of protection that's over us, is going to be removed. And just like the churning of milk into butter, so is wrath going to bring strife. Okay, just think about that. Think about what that is going to mean, right? When I make butter, I take the cream off the milk. I put it in a mason jar and I shake the crap out of it. Just shake it up. And I shake it for enough time, it turns into butter. God is going to peel back the firmament, the protective wall over earth, and shake the earth as if he is making butter so violently. This is the wrath that God is going to pour out on the earth. All because people won't keep his Sabbath, profane his name, stand behind a Christmas tree, and eat swine and other abominable things. Eat animals that are unclean, that are not food. I cannot wrap my head around this. Why is it so important for people to have lobster and shrimp and pork and catfish and other nasty things? You have to eat all of that disgusting stuff and not stop working on Sabbath. And by calling the Messiah Jesus and saying that he is God in the flesh, that the Messiah was God in the flesh and his name is Jesus, you're blaspheming his name. To say that God changed, he changed the Sabbath, he changed what he called an abomination, that is taking his name in vain, because his name is literally his actual name, Jehovah, and it means his character. So you've changed his character. You're lying about the word of God, saying that he changed things. He made everything clean. When you do that, when you take his name in vain and you break the third commandment, you are heaping hot coals on your head. You are storing up wrath for yourself. You're telling God that you hate him, instead of just taking a day off and not eating things that God calls unclean. And do a little bit of research. It's not hard. This is eSword that I've been looking at. eSword. I don't know if you can see it here. It's probably not going to show up very well. Right? So I can just go in. I can click. Right? Any word. And it tells me the definition. Right? So I can go in and I can type in the word salvation. Genesis 49:18. That's the first time it's used. I have waited for your salvation, Jehovah. Whoops. Salvation 34:44. Right there. Actually, here. I think I can turn this around. And then you can see I'm looking at more clearly. If I can do this. Okay. This is perfect because it has both of them right here. I have waited for your salvation. 34:44. Yeshua. I have waited for your Yeshua. $78 times. There's all the places. Yeshua's name, right there. All over the Old Testament. It's everywhere. And then, if we go back here, oh Lord, capitals, all capitals, Lord and God, whenever you see those two. 30:68. That's God's name. Jehovah. Jehovah gave us Yeshua. It's so simple, guys. It really is. It's so simple. It's a free app, for crying out loud. But God's people will be destroyed for a lack of knowledge because you just don't take the time to sit there and study it out. And if you do it on Saturday, on the Sabbath, and just stop for one day from doing your work, if you turn your heart towards obedience because you actually love God, you'll see all of this. It's not hard. You just have to get rid of your idols. So, I really hope that, I pray that somebody who hears this has ears to hear and eyes to see. And go read it for yourself. Praise God. Praise Jehovah. Praise Yah.